Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for the Pandemic Marriage Rescue.
We are going to spend a little bit of time here with some Q&A, some really practical advice, some thoughts from 4 couples who've walked with God for a little while. This is not for perfect people. It's certainly not for perfect marriages. And I would just encourage you to do this, to be vulnerable. The Bible says in the book of Ephesians that our job in marriage is to present each other as spotless before Christ. That submission is not like a wrestler who you tap out, but to submit to one another means that we take our lives and through Christ, we submit them to each other and He makes them even greater. That's what we're going to be talking about, and we're going to jump right in. Here we go. Hey, so we're going to jump into some really practical stuff here. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what, honey?
Communication.
Yeah, and Myrna's going to get us started there.
I am, but first I want to introduce you to the people on the stage. So first, well, I should say this is my husband, Stanley. I thought you were going to introduce us, but anyway. This is Stanley Brown.
Well, see, again, communication. It's a problem, isn't it?
This is true. And then to my left, to my immediate left, we have Rob and Stephanie Miller. And Stephanie is a licensed associate professional counselor. And Rob is an innovation developer. So we're so happy to have you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we also have Zach and Melissa Johnston. Hi, guys. And Zach is a licensed clinical social worker, and Melissa is a teacher. So welcome, and thanks for being here. Back to you, Randy.
Melissa, what do you teach?
I teach elementary art and high school graphic design.
Wow, these are like really cool jobs, like to do. So we've got some. We're going to talk about communication, but apparently there's kind of a trick question here to get us started with this.
Yes. Let's see. Let me think of it. What do we do to annoy slightly, not a lot, just a little bit, annoy our better halves, our spouses? So who wants to answer that? What do we do to annoy our spouses?
Is this intentional or unintentional?
Is there a difference?
Oh, let's see. What do I do to annoy Stephanie?
Well, I think she gets to answer that.
She should, if we wanted accuracy.
Yeah. I don't know if he does this intentionally, but he sleeps in. So here I am taking care of the kids, taking care of everything in the morning, and he gets to sleep in. So.
Nice. So now it's my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you do to annoy me? I would probably say I learn a lot about things that happen through other people that were already posted on Facebook. So they end up on Facebook to the rest of the world before I'll hear about them. So it's a little bit of a peeve.
We'll be working on communication.
Okay, the most annoying thing Zach does is he leaves cups everywhere. There's like 3 on his nightstand, 2 on the table, they're all on the counter.
And that's a problem?
But that's okay.
So Melissa has a degree in interior design, and she likes to use that around our house by rearranging things every day, all day. So you never really know where to find anything in our house. It looks nice, but it's always lost.
The thing that annoys me the most is Randy leaves empty cartons of things in the refrigerator or in the pantry. Yes. Just one annoying thing.
Yeah. Well, honey, I don't have anything. So no, this is what Anita does. It's so funny. So like we can be on a 9-hour drive, but when we get to where we're going to get to, Anita needs to flip that mirror down and spend a little bit of time putting on lipstick and all those kinds of things. We can't do that when we're in the park. We can't do that when we're going 3 miles an hour. We have to wait. And a lot of times I drop her off at the front of stores, and she has to do it at the front of stores, and there's an entire line of people. So
I would say we're related, Anita, because I don't see anything wrong with that. So while I have the mic, okay, let me think. This is kind of a love-hate thing because I really love the fact that Stanley is so organized, but to a fault. I mean, if you want to come into our pantry, he's looking at me like, but he's pretty he's more organized than I am, to the point where things are all in order and not color-coded, but very much in order. And I'm just the opposite, so I guess that's what annoys me. So it's mostly about me being unorganized. Yeah, so, okay, be nice.
Well, I guess I can piggyback off of that in the sense that we both share in the laundry duty and folding towels. We have so many towels, and you get them in a certain spot that you have to be folded a certain way. If you fold a different way, they're not all going to get in there. And she folds them her way, and I fold them my way. They get in my way, they don't get in her way. It's like we got a new set of towels or something like that. I don't know.
when we should have like some extra sessions, and we'll let Stanley do a towel folding session here. So,
That was
are you
fun.
going for the 3 or the 2 fold? Which the 3 fold? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions and responses to the survey. And we had close to 60 people participating. The majority of you all have been married for 20 plus years. And the number one issue, and I think we all agreed this was the number one issue, but the number one issue, communication, and probably the lack thereof. So let's talk about that. Why is that a big one, communication? Let's hear from either Zach or Stephanie.
Okay. What I have seen in my life as well as in my clients' lives is that we grow up in different ways of communicating. So our family life, we communicate in all different ways, and we deal with conflict in all different ways. And so I think, it's really about what we've been, like what's our environment, what we've been through, how we've kind of learned communication through those ways. And I think that's kind of, yeah.
And one particular question about that we got, someone wrote, we can go days without speaking to each other. So what would you say, Zach, to that husband or wife who's expressing that?
I think that it's really easy to get in those ruts and to get in your rhythms and to not even recognize that you've gone hours or days without really meaningful connection. And so I think for us, and what I work with my clients on, is making intentional strides to do that. So you set aside time specifically to connect, even if it's for 5 minutes, or having a ritual that you do every day. It's kind of, we connect right before we go to bed at night, and we get to pray together and talk about how the day was, and talking about communication, talking about what's going to happen the next day has been very helpful for us.
We have those cards, the conversation cards that'll ask a question. So it's, even if you don't really feel like talking, when you ask kind of a fun question or a serious question, it just helps you kind of open up. It's a starting point for something.
Early on we had a little fun and we talked about maybe some of our little pet peeves of what annoys each other here. But that's also a real concern in our marriages too. And one of the questions related to being irritability. And how do we address that in our marriages when we're different?
Yeah, I mean, irritability can be a big issue, and I think a lot of times our irritability stems from our stress life. It's just how we handle stress, and also then other types of things going on. I think irritability can be resolved when you are communicating with one another. That's the one thing, we have emotion, and irritability is an emotion to kind of give us a signal that something's going on that's not right. So is it that I need to talk to my spouse about a certain situation? Am I feeling resentful? Or is it just because we're both in a high personal stress zone right now? And do we need to work on kind of some, stress release, some stress management stuff? I don't know, Zach, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it starts with yourself. If you're feeling irritable, finding ways to take care of yourself, whether that's going for a run or reading or watching a TV show, it's something that kind of gives you energy and allows you to rest. And I find that if it's our spouse that's irritable, it may be that they don't feel heard or that they think that we aren't caring. And so if we allow them to know that they're heard and that their opinion is valued, that can definitely help kind of bring it down a little bit.
I think that point of being heard sometimes actually winds up being a negative in terms of this, because maybe you're at work and you feel like your boss doesn't hear you, or the people that work for you don't hear you, or you're a student and you feel like the professor doesn't listen to you, and then you go to the store and the person who's getting the meat in the meat department doesn't hear you, and then you come home and you're frustrated, and this person hears me, and I know that this person actually cares, and sometimes all of that frustration winds up being displayed on the person that I can actually unload on, and certainly isn't healthy. But sometimes it's about, okay, this is a safe person for me to unload on. And it's probably, if you say that in advance, it might make it a little better. But
I like what Zach said there about the fact that it kind of starts with us. I think both of you guys have pointed to that. Because some things, that gets under our skin and irritates us is really more of the relationship says more about us and what we allow to kind of moves us. And some things are not really worth causing it to allow us to stir us up there, and we should let it go. We joked about, the towel folding. I could turn it into World War III, or you could overlook it from that standpoint. It's how you address it also, too, whether you allow it to escalate.
The other side of communication, or a part of communication, is listening. Yeah. And someone wanted to know how to become a better listener. We can all become better listeners, I think.
I'll start off. I would say in today's age is to put your phone down. I will catch myself, like, even if we're just casually sitting in the living room, and I'm flipping through something and he'll start talking to me and I'll be multitasking, and I realize, what am I saying to him? And so just little things like that. Just put your phone down, look at him in the eye, listen to him about those little things that make him feel important, is one thing I would say.
It's a big one.
It's definitely an intentional choice that you have to work on, and I think practice kind of makes perfect in that. Well, maybe not perfect, but practice helps, where you are able to listen more and not be listening to interject, but be listening really to understand, is something that takes a lot of practice. I know personally, and for people that I know as well.
Yeah, and what goes along with active listening, a lot of times is when you hear your spouse talking and you're listening, to be able to reflect back what they're saying. It's basically saying, paraphrasing what he said. And what happens is then he's like, wow, yeah, I feel understood. And all I did was just reflect back what he said in my own words. And then that helps us be able to have this back and forth type of communication, the start of it. And I think that's important, is to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm hearing, and then say it, and then is this right? And then they have the option, oh no, that's off, this is what I'm saying. So you're being able to do this back and forth type of deal, and we don't learn that in our daily lives. This is something we learn as counselors, and so I think that's so important in active listening as well.
I like the word active. You put that on. And I think that when we don't, what we're communicating when we don't give that eye contact is that, well, you're not important to me right now, or there's something else more important. So.
Yeah, nonverbals are a big part of communication in our active listening. So like she said, you're on the phone. That's not really listening. And so, yeah, making sure to have the eye contact and not slumped or crossing your arms. And, that's a whole part of that. Yeah.
So now we have some homework for you. And Pastor Randy mentioned it earlier. This might be difficult. It might not feel good, but it will be good for you. So we have some challenges, some things that we want you to do. And we're going to start with Zach.
Sure. So the first challenge I would have for you really is simple in theory, more difficult to do in practice, but would be to set aside some time for you to speak with your spouse without distraction. If it's after the kids go to bed, or if you're even able to get a sitter to go walk around the park or something you can do while social distancing, and ask your spouse, what is it that I do that helps you to feel heard? How do you feel loved? And really listen to what they have to say and try to incorporate that into your daily rhythm with them. And then when you have the opportunity to share, be honest and really tell them what is it that helps you feel heard. And don't be afraid to be honest, because that now is going to help resolve issues later. Try to put them off.
So that's the first thing. And Stephanie has one more challenge for you.
Yeah, and this kind of goes along with what Zach was saying, but I'm thinking, taking time to sit knee to knee, meaning we're going to turn around here and we're going to really sit knee to knee. And we're going to do some active listening like we just talked about. And where I am, I'm telling him what I wish I would like in the marriage. I wish we could have, more intimacy. And then, explain a little bit about how that makes you feel. And then he would be able to respond back what he heard. So doing some of that reflective speech back. And then you'd be able to start conversation and then have him do the same thing. And I think that could really help kind of just start feeling that you can kind of get your needs and wants met, being assertive in the marriage, but also giving into your relationship and listening and being understanding.
Very good, very good. Thanks to both of you. So take some time, however long you need, and consider those things and do that. Thanks.